Thanks, man. Thank you very much. Thank you. I am going to talk today about failure. How many of you guys have failed?
Too much.
Yeah, there's only like 2 or 3 liars. We all fail. We all fail. This is me. This is actually me Christmas morning. I think I'm 3 years old. This is the last time I had long hair until now.
Yeah,
Same haircut, yeah, just not blonde anymore. It's also the first time I knew I wanted to be creative. I had a camera. And I'm going to tell you a funny story about an epic fail I had in 7th grade that actually allowed me to attend Brooks Institute of Photography, which I'll show you a slide of next. And it's kind of mind-boggling. My parents sent me there. But in 7th grade, you have to take an aptitude test, right? So they place you fill in the little bubbles. It's a pain in the ass, math, English, and then they put you in normal classes, AP classes. I've always really wondered how stuff worked, taking phones apart, taking VCRs apart. So I was really curious if they actually measured the ones that you got right or the ones that you got incorrect. So on my 7th grade aptitude test, I filled in every single bubble, A through E, on every single question, and was really promptly put into special classes for kids with incredibly severe learning disabilities, like 2 + 7, this was 7th grade. And my parents, the go-getters they are, said, you know, if you work hard, Keith, if you bust your ass, if you pull it together, despite these severe learning disabilities that you obviously have, we will put you to whatever school. We'll bust our ass. You can go to Harvard. You can go to anywhere. And about a week into being in this special needs class, I retook the test and I actually got put in AP classes. So my parents sort of got duped and they sent me here to go to college. So I went to Santa Barbara, went to Brooks Institute of Photography, and my parents paid a ludicrous amount of money for me to get a degree in underwater photography. So this is what I spent 3 years doing, living on a boat. It was amazing. So one of my first epic fails that I turned into a really successful win. I'll tell you a little bit about the company Zenman. We're a digital agency. We've been around for 16 years. Our clients range from American Express, BASF, Cisco, to a lot of local businesses that you would know, like Frank Bonanno's restaurants, Shanahan's, Comedy Works. We built their online ordering system. And over the years, we've had a lot of failures, more times than I honestly want to share with you. But I want to share one particular failure that I incurred when I landed my dream job. I went to Brooks Institute of Photography. I spent a year looking for the right position, and I was able to land a day job working props for a guy named Vic Huber. And at the time, this is 1996, this guy was the top car photographer in the world. We did, Ferrari, Land Rover with like literally rhinos and full-grown lions on a set. It was an amazing job. And I did 1 day of props with these guys. I got on, and I actually made a choice that I'm not gonna pay a credit card bill that I have to pay. I'm a poor starving artist. I wanna take these assistants out because these guys have their shit together. I wanna do what they do. So I didn't pay my credit card bill. I took these guys out to play pool and convinced them to interview me. So I drove from Phoenix, where I was living at the time, out to Irvine, California. Sorry, dual mic thing. And I interviewed with them. You totally made me lose my train of thought, Ryan, sorry. Interviewed with these guys out in LA. I spent literally 3 months commuting back and forth from Phoenix to Los Angeles until they offered me a full-time position. My first day as a full-time assistant. So I just moved to Irvine, just like Carlsbad, was working in Irvine. And we finished the first day. Has anybody ever done photography assisting? Yeah, it's brutal work, right? And car photography work is manual labor, and it's 16, 18-hour days. It's hard-ass work. And at the end of the day, everybody gets in their respective vehicles. I was driving a grip truck, and you go to the next location, and you have 4 to 6 hours sleep, and then you start the next day. I filled up my truck with gas, got on the 101, started driving up to Santa Barbara, and the truck really started sputtering. And then this white smoke starts billowing out of the back of this truck. This is my first day on the job. I pull over. I managed to sputter into this hotel in the PCH that was ludicrously expensive. Called the studio manager. He said, just get a hotel, take care of it. Call the number. We've got, open up the glove box. There's a service company. Call the number, and I'm sitting there waiting, just terrified, like, what did I do to this truck? You know, it's my first day. I literally just moved. This is my dream job. All I've ever wanted to do since you saw that picture of me when I was 3 was be a photographer. This is the guy that I want to work for. What the fuck did I do? So I eventually fell asleep, and when I woke up the next morning, I looked out the hotel room window, and there was the guy sort of getting back in his truck that was servicing my grip truck. I ran downstairs, and there was just a note on the window that said, "Truck filled with fuel, not diesel." Actually, not diesel was like all caps. So I just filled this $750,000 truck with 80 gallons of super unleaded, which I didn't think you could do. Like, it's not supposed to let you do that, right? When you go to the pump, shouldn't you not be able to put diesel in there? So, fuck, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? I bribed him. So I waited there, and when the guy got back, I microscopic truth. I just moved here. This is my dream job. I can't get fired. The reason that this truck is broken, I am not at work with all this equipment, can't be truck filled with fuel, not diesel. That's just not plausible. What's this gonna cost? And it was about 200 bucks. And I didn't tell the guys till 2 years after I left, and they said that's exactly what you should have done. So that was my first failure, and now I turned it into a not fail. Everybody's failed, right? I failed again today. I was gonna bring these really cool Zen books that we have. A couple of you probably have them. Whoever answers these questions right, if you come to our office, I will give you a really cool, it's like an action pad and a really cool Zen man hat. Michael Jordan. You have to wait for the question. What was his fail? Does anybody know sort of the epic fail, Michael Jordan's epic fail? He was cut from his high school basketball. He didn't make it his sophomore year. Yeah. Actually, I think that might have been the coach's epic fail. What about this guy? There's lots of these, but anybody that knows any bit of information can win.
Didn't get fat.
I'll give you it too.
Chewing bubble gum.
He didn't. He actually didn't talk until he was 4. He couldn't read until he was 7, and his teacher said that he was pretty slow and it would be challenging to learn. Walt Disney, not Mickey Mouse, right? What's Walt Disney? This is sort of a really ironic failure. Does anybody know his big failure? That's a really good one that I didn't know about. But if you want to come by, I'll give you a book. The one that I was looking for was Walt Disney was actually fired from a newspaper for lacking creativity and having no imagination. So kind of ironic. I'm a big fan of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. I disagree. Steven Spielberg. You can come too, I'll give it to you. But he was actually rejected multiple times from film school from Southern California. So the reason that I tell you these stories, all of them, they're not failing without purpose, and they learn from those failures and they move on, they continue to grow. And these are some of arguably the best athletes, artists, filmmakers in the world. I want to talk to you about how we learn from failure, and I'm going to share a personal experience at our agency, working within our company where we worked on a project. It was a project that I courted for probably 18 months. The names and companies will totally remain nameless so I don't get sued or make anybody really upset, but it was for teachers. And we were gonna build an education system that would allow everybody from the principal to the parent, teacher to be totally transparent to what was going on with that student. They were gonna be able to suggest free learning activities based on what your students' needs were. We were going to bridge the gap. We found doing focus groups up front that as kids got older, disengagements from their parents actually affected their performance at school. So as a kid got older, their parents were less interested and their performance dropped. So we did a ton of focus groups. We had all this research, and we're really, really smart at building software, user experience, visual design. Where we failed, and where the product owner on this project failed, is when we went off and started building this system, we didn't talk to anybody for 18 months. We got all of these great ideas spun up from the ideas that these teachers gave us, so we thought we were solving the world's problems. We literally thought today in Sri Lanka there would be a kid learning on an iPad based on what we were doing, and 2 years into it, the startup was absolutely gone. When they rolled it out to the teachers, the first iteration was totally useless. We developed this unbelievably complex system that they didn't want to use. So we failed to the tune of millions of dollars. That sucks. Here's how you don't fail, right? You fail fast and frequently, and you learn from it. And you try not to fail big. So you have an idea, Brilliant. You go off and you build that idea and you iterate on the idea. We come up with a great skateboard, right? And I use the hipsters. Our office is an industry, so we're in Rhino, so we're very inundated with hipsters. So we roll out the skateboard. You know, I can't do kickflips with grip tape on a third of the skateboard, so this really doesn't work for me. It looks cool, but it's not functional, right? If we'd produced 1 million of those, not bueno. But if we get their input and we quickly iterate on that, and then we roll it back out and we continue that cycle, we make small incremental changes that end up with a significantly better product. And I want to tell you about an example where we did this and where the product owner and the startup owner that embraced this. There's a local company, Ibotta. They've been around for about 2.5 years. The founder was actually a partner and international trial attorney, brilliant guy, lawyer, and he knew nothing about coupons, but his father-in-law was a VC guy and he had this idea at Christmas. And his father-in-law actually said, if you don't quit your job as a partner in this law firm, you're a fucking idiot. And he raised several $1 million, and Brian said, I make a lot of money, but if you say I need to do this, then I'm gonna trust you. And he started this company. When we started working on this, neither one of us had any idea how coupons work. To be honest, I'm embarrassed to use coupons. I feel like the lady behind me is getting pissed off that I'm taking too long, and I just don't do it, right? Same with Brian. But there's a need. People use coupons. People absolutely need this. And what this product does is it allows you to look through products that are suggested to you. If you add them to your Ibotta cart and then you purchase them, you take a photo of your receipt and they actually pay you money, period. They give you money, it goes in your account. It's a great app, you should download it. If you go grocery shopping, you will make money. The reason this makes money is brands want to know what you're doing, right? Do you continue to buy Pepsi if you're a Coke drinker if you got $1 off one time? They don't know if you print off that little coupon. There's no analytics, there's no brand engagement. So this is a brilliant product that we had no idea when he had the idea what it was going to end up being. So we, from the very beginning, in sort of these rough paper prototypes, we went to the street right out in front of his office in Lodo when there would be Rockies games or activity, and we would grab people off the street and say, hey, you got 2 minutes, how do you think this would work? And we would show them the prototype, and when they would touch a button, we would move it to the right page, and we would get their feedback right there. So before I actually ever did any visual design, we probably had gone through a dozen iterations of the key workflows for this app, and we understood the pain points and we'd already worked them out. So when we started really getting pixel perfect creative, we knew what the client was gonna expect, what the user was gonna expect. So one of the things that I think with creatives, we're kind of pussies, right? When I went to art school, you guys have it ludicrously easy. When I went to Brooks, if you got a C, you failed the class. If you got a second C, you were expelled. That was it. 12 kids graduated from my class of 60 that started. But when I went for an interview, I got a job because I had that degree. Now, the people that we see that are coming out of school that we hire, it's probably 5 to 10% of the kids that are actually really driven. What we find is, they just sort of push them through, right? They taught us to deal with rejection. Our critiques, we would sit in a room like this, everybody's work would be up on a board, and we didn't have Photoshop, right? So I should iterate, back in the day when I went to school, if you had a scratch on your negative, you actually had to retouch it with toner and like a little paintbrush, so you'd have to do 50 prints that you'd dodge and burn, and then you'd screw up 30 of them and throw them away, and then you'd burn 2 of them when you were dry mounting them. It was painful, right? But you appreciated your work, and we understood that presentation was everything. So in these critiques, it wouldn't be uncommon for somebody to cry. And in these critiques, it wouldn't be uncommon for almost everybody to fail and get a redo that you now had to do in addition to your next week's assignment. So they tried to weed everybody out. I had a print that I'd worked on for a week. I'd probably printed, like I said, 50 of these. I'd probably screwed up 48 of them retouching them. I had one that was perfect, and it came down to the wire like it so often did. And our requirements were that we dry mount, again, something nobody has any idea what it is, but it's an old technology where you actually had to have a heat iron and trim things, and it was a pain in the ass. So I skipped it and I spray mounted it, which was not the requirement. And as my professor walked by, he noticed that the corner was peeling off. So he actually grabbed the board, bent it, saw that it was spray mounted, tore it off the board, tore it in half so I couldn't reuse it, crumbled it up and threw it at me and said, that sucks, it's a redo. You shouldn't have had to redo it if you just followed instructions. What that developed for me was a thick skin that I think all creatives need to have for one specific reason, and that is you need to hear and collaborate with your clients. As smart as you all think you are and that you can go off and solve problems, if I'm building something for coupons, I have to listen to the subject matter experts. In our contracts at Zenman, we actually require client engagement. If you don't communicate for 4 weeks, the project's over. It's done. We package it all up and send it to you. We can't help you. We can't be successful without your engagement. And we're transparent. We use tools like Basecamp and Pivotal Tracker that our clients are in on a daily basis so they see what's going on. But it's really important, just you gotta develop thick skin. And you have to do those passion projects. I mean, we're creatives and that's why we do what we do. So you have to have what you do for yourself to fulfill that need. But in order to be successful, I think in a digital agency, you do have to develop thick skin and you do have to listen to your clients. One of the things that we do, because the client's usually wrong, right, when they tell us what they want, not really, but sometimes people suck. They'll come back and say, I want pink kittens and I want a purple gradient background to red and it would look great with pink text. My teenager loves pink text, right? So if we just go off and dad creates a beautiful design and we present it to you and it looks great, they're not gonna like it. They're not gonna buy into it, even if it's perfect, even if it's built so that it's gonna convert, it's gonna increase their business. What we do is we show them both options. So if you come to us and you have a shitty idea and I can't in the meeting convince you why you should listen to us, you pay us $125 to $175 an hour for a reason, we're gonna show you both options. And because I heard you, I've never had a client, when I show them what they asked for and what I recommend, go with what they asked for. I'm a big fan of How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie, an excellent book. Any creative that's trying to sell their work should read that book. The other thing we do is we're retrospective. So we are a 100% agile shop, and what that means is at the end of every project and every 2 weeks, we hold a retrospective meeting. At the end of the project, every single person that was involved in that project sits in a room and there's a smiley face, frowny face, and a puzzler face, and we put post-it notes as to what went well and what went bad and what we were kind of confused about on this project. And based on the feedback that we get, we make tiny incremental changes to our process. We had a retrospective meeting today at Zenman, and there was a good example about something that we did in launching a site that we needed to change. It was a minor tweak. We have a template in Basecamp, so literally right in our retrospective meeting, we went in and said, great, this is here, it's in a discussion, let's make it a to-do, let's make sure this happens every single time, and we mitigate that problem that just occurred once, so we never repeat that failure. We also do it company-wide, which I kind of jump between project and company, but the company-wide one every 2 weeks, I mean, everybody from our interns to our VP in business development is in those meetings and we're talking about pain points. It might be anything from the roof leaked and that sucked because my keyboard died to, hey, we didn't sell anything last 2 weeks, go light a fire to somebody's ass, let's start, start a sales contest to, we just got nominated for an award site. Kick-ass job, guys. So it's nice to have some fun ones in there too. But being retrospective and learning every 2 weeks is really important. And you have to have balls. So in order to do this, I like poker quite a bit. And one of my favorite sayings in poker, and it's very true, is scared money never wins, right? If you go to the poker table with, I'm gonna lose this $200, you're gonna lose this $200. Even worse, if you go to the poker table with your rent money, and you're really scared, if I lose this money, I can't pay rent, you're definitely gonna lose your money. My other favorite poker saying is a pair of balls beats everything, but that's because I bluff quite a bit. But you have to have confidence in what you're doing. You can't just do something haphazardly. I am a big not advocate of the book, The Secret. There's no secret in wishing really hard. I am a Buddhist, right? I do believe that if you do hard work and if you put good things out in the world, good things will come back. And that's always worked out. I'm also superstitious. But it has always worked out for us. We do right by our clients. We exceed their expectations. We deliver. We make everything right. If we screw something up, we make it right. We had an agency that we farmed stuff out to with a client of ours, and they had 5 months of their services at $1,000 a month. 5 months into it, they weren't happy. I paid the guy back because we recommended that other agency, right? Our partnerships are critical. And you have to have confidence in what you're doing. I love George Takei. the way that he says "oh my" and guacamole and stuff, he's just way cooler than William Shatner. But boldly go, be brave in what you're doing. I'm an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I remember in 7th grade in economics class getting the definition of this person that's like probably going to go bankrupt like half a dozen times in their life. They're going to have all of these failures. My very first business failure is with a guy that still works with us, Tom Horak. We started a company in our senior year in high school because we wanted those big giant cell phones from like 1989, and we thought when we start a business, then we'll have to have a cell phone so people can contact us. So we started Magic Moments Photography, and it lasted about 3 months. And it's totally gone. Huge failure. But we learned a lot. Like being bootstrapping everything. Everything at my company right now, we pay cash for. And that's a lesson I learned from Magic Moments Photography, where we fucked up our credit. Pretty good. So, yeah, that was a good lesson. Questions? I'm good at this part. Yes? The way that I would do it would again be that Dale Carnegie. I would make some analogies or comparisons to companies that don't change or grow, that maybe they're not being risk averse. In that example, and I find this in doing sales or anything, making a connection helps me tell the story, and I would make the analogy of there used to be 2 really big cereal companies before the Great Depression. One of them invested in advertising during the Great Depression. The other pulled their money back. We're an agency, so big believers in advertising. You guys all know the cereal company that's still the big one. Yeah, Kellogg, right? Does anybody know the other one? There were only 2. Post, yeah. You're actually the first person that's ever known Post, by the way, so you can come by and get a Zen book. But yeah, big difference in brand recognition. And that was an investment that was a risk, but it was a calculated risk, and business is a risk. If you own a business, if you're in business, you're taking risks. So I would sort of make that argument, and if they didn't want to make the recommendations, one of my other favorite sayings is if we have facts, we'll use that. If we have opinions, we'll just use mine. So I would immediately want to look at analytics, make sure they had analytics on their site or whatever campaign they're doing, be able to measure it, and then I would just prove them wrong, but I would do it in a way that makes them convinced that it's their idea. Really kind of cheeky, but yeah, that's how I do it. That's a really tough sell. It's a tough sell at the size my company is, and we're top 10, we're probably like 6 or 7, and they're much bigger agencies than us. I've been on calls with Pivotal. I love the guys at Pivotal Labs. They kick ass, where somebody tried to basically put a box around it and say, I want a fixed bid. And his response was, I know what you're trying to do. We don't do that. We do it agile. If you want us to do it, that's cool. If not, that's cool. And that was awesome because he's like, okay, great. We're going, you basically took the decision off. You're not always in that position. We've been around 16 years. 2 years ago, we added a 11th core company value that's we work with people we like, right? We will fire people that suck because we don't want to work with you. Or we're going to charge you so much that you don't want to work with us. And if you do, we'll go snowboarding and have a good time and whatever. So that's how I would deal with that. Absolutely. We over-deliver. I think one of the things that's gotten us the reputation that we have, and if you go if you look at our ratings, they're pretty much 5-star everywhere. It's because we don't leave anybody unhappy. Even if you are, we had a restaurant client, and those of you that know our work, that's a big vertical for us. We do a ton of restaurant work. And this was a restaurant job. It was a husband and wife, and they were a huge pain in the ass. We did probably 60 different logo concepts with them arguing back and forth before they went back to the original first logo that we presented to them. Everything was supposed to be so easy because they had it presented, and it wasn't. And when we wrapped up that job, because of our reputation in the restaurant business, I knew that that person was unhappy, so I made an appointment to go get my ass chewed. So I could let her vent, right, and feel good about herself, and I could learn something about maybe what we could have done better. I actually made the appointment, drove to the restaurant she was supposed to be at, she wasn't there. They told me she was at her other restaurant. I drove to her other restaurant, she wasn't there. I drove home, and literally as I was getting out of my car, she called me and said, oh, I'm back at the first restaurant. And I got in my car and I drove back and I got my ass chewed for 2 hours for absolutely no reason. She couldn't have been more wrong. And I just nodded, shook my head. Another great Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. People don't want to hear you talk. They just want to hear their name and they want to hear you nod and ask like questions about what they're telling you. So I did that for 2 hours, totally zoned out. And they were really happy. At the end of the project, even though they had a shit experience, they were happy with us. So that's one way. I could give you a lot of different examples for that. Yes. So we don't like to outsource much of anything. We don't outsource anything. If we have a partner, we'll manage the relationship with a partner that's transparent to the client so they know, hey, we use AdVision for our inbound marketing. They manage our HubSpot account. I recommend them for other clients all the time. So that's a transparent relationship. If it's something, otherwise it has to be in-house. As far as spinning off other products, we have spun off basically a commoditized template version of what we do. If we're gonna build a website for you, depending on what your needs are, it might be you starting at $30,000, $50,000, it might be $500,000, right? Depending on the functionality. We do a lot of restaurant work, we do a lot of healthcare work, and a lot of people starting out can't afford that, or they just don't have the balls, right, to drop that investment in their marketing. So we have created commoditized, basically templated versions that are way better than what you get on other templated versions, but that you can go out and just, for $500 a month, we'll rent you a site. It's actually something that we just rolled out this year. There are some great agencies like Madwired up in Loveland. Last year it was the second fastest growing company in Colorado. I think it was like 15th or something in the country. They went from a few guys to 500 guys in just a few years. Very much on that sort of commoditized version. So that's appealing. That's also appealing from the recurring revenue stream, right? A lot of projects that we do, if we do a great job and we empower you with a CMS, we're done until you need more help. And that's where being involved with ongoing, looking at your analytics and continuing to evolve campaigns, A/B testing, how can we increase your conversion? We made some small changes on our site last year, and we increased our conversion from leads from 0.25% to 2%. So we're talking like 20 to 80 leads. And that was actually a really tiny tweak that we did on our site, but it was because we continued to just turn the screws that we made that change that had that significant impact. That was wicked long-winded, sorry. Taught. I'm a big believer in your 10,000 hours, right? I'd love to play kick-ass guitar, and every time I take a lesson, I take 1 or 2 lessons, and the guy's like, you're gonna be gifted, you're fucking awesome. Well, it's because I've done that 10 times, right? And I can play C, E, and G, and every rose has its thorn, which I always refuse. Like, I'm not playing that. You have to find some other G, C, E song to be my first guitar song, but it's ours. You can be gifted by all means, and I've got some kick-ass designers back here. Daniel, we're about to launch our new site. He is amazing. I've been doing this a lot longer than him, so if we sat down to do the same thing, I will probably do it faster than Daniel. But it's because I've done that same task 10,000 times more than Daniel's done it, right? Now that's not to take anything away from, I'm gonna learn things from him, and we twice a week have creative reviews where everybody, myself and every creative, look at every single project and we all collectively give feedback. Because I grew up in the 80s, right? Bill and Ted, Socrates, the greatest knowledge is knowing that you know nothing, right? So being able to step back and know that you're absolutely fallible and you are gonna make bad decisions and be wrong, and being open to feedback. So when our bill rate is actually based on our person there, right? So our most senior developer that's literally been coding since pre-DOS is $175 an hour. Most of our people, so it's actually a different agency rate. Yeah, this is the bitch with the question you're asking. The bigger clients you get, the better clients you get, the larger clients are much easier to deal with because they have experience. They understand what a change request is. They understand if you've started building something and they change their mind, it's gonna cost money, right? If you get somebody to pay you $5,000 for their startup, and this was no shit, a business I did a website for diaper cakes, which are baby gifts, and maybe you want a fireman diaper cake. So it's a cake made of diapers that they ship to you. Shipping was more than the cake. This was a horrible business idea, failed epically. She was a huge pain in the ass. And because she spent $5,000, but to her, I mean, that might as well have been $1 million. She felt like I was an indentured servant for the next 10 years. So the way that I solved that is actually by putting a very clearly defined box around all of your deliverables. So if you can't go agile and say, okay, we're gonna do everything in Tracker, we're gonna point it, when we're done, we're done. You put a really defined box on it, and when they start to make changes in the beginning, and this is a mistake that took 16 years to learn, in the beginning, you've got budget. So when they make these small changes, yeah, no problem, we could do that. Yeah, okay, go to 5 pages to, no, it is a change request because you need that budget to finish the project. On the projects that we do that are fixed bid, we go over budget 90 to 95% of the time, between 5 and 25%.
That's like, how do you handle the situation once you're in it? I'm actually curious about.
How do you get the clients? No, you just have to keep working. Okay. That's, you start at F's, D's, C's, B's, and A's. Okay. And it's a process. When I first started the agency, I chose businesses that I thought Vic Huber was one of them, ironically, because he was a top car photographer and I wanted to work in that field with web. I built his website. I didn't tell him, I downloaded a bunch of images, I built his website and I showed it to him. So I did the work that was gonna get me the A and the B clients, and then I did the suck work to pay the bills and didn't show anybody. And yeah, it's stressful, it sucks. I'm sorry, I wish there was like a, yeah, but there's not.
That's not easy.
How am I as a manager? I think I am the coolest manager in the world. Oh, I gotta wrap it up. I'm getting to wrap it up, the sign. So I have fired somebody 3 hours into their first day. Yeah, and that person was fired for being disrespectful to a female employee. And I will not tolerate that. Sorry. And ironically, Josh wouldn't let me do it. So I'm so passive, but this guy had me, it was on. But I will also give somebody as much guidance and mentorship as possible to grow them. A lot of the staff that we have, we've actually brought up through interns. A lot of our leads, actually, our management team came through us through different programs, and they did their internship. We brought them on part-time. They worked, they stopped working at the pizza place. They actually worked at an agency a couple days a week. When they graduated, we snagged their ass up. And we got 2 guys that literally made a blood pact they're never gonna leave, that went through that program. You can't leave. So that's one way. The other way, things like this would be great. We use Bacon a lot, BW Bacon. So if we need a rock star and we need him right away, it costs, but he'll find us somebody that's kick-ass. I am very empowering. I'm a big believer in Drive, Daniel Pink's Drive. If you haven't read that book, watch his YouTube. Because you're all creatives, you'll love his little YouTube. It's like a pen drawing. Money doesn't motivate people. Autonomy and doing things that they love do. So we have a pinball machine in my office. We have a PlayStation. We have fun. That's a big part of it. At the same time, we have core hours. So for 2 hours every morning and 2 hours every afternoon, we have 2 different pods that contain both creative and developers, and you can't talk to them, because just asking them a question for 30 seconds just derailed their train of thought that's gonna take them 20 minutes to get back to. So during those core hours, you leave them alone. The easy answer is like a restaurant. You go eat the food and drink the wine and experience it. For Arapahoe Library District, we did a project. We went down and did focus groups. We've got some cool exercises where we'll try to pull out and build personas of those users. And by building those personas, then we can better understand, as great as Daniel's style is, and he's done some really cool personal stuff, if we were building a home, a site for like a retirement community, making it look like a retro vision skateboard, Pal Peralta site isn't gonna attract that target audience. So by building those personas and then really designing what's appealing to them, that's how we try to solve that. Thanks.
Sweet. Well, let's thank Keith for speaking for us and answering all the questions.
Thanks.